Have you ever wondered what happens at the exact moment of death? What if, upon crossing to the other side, Jesus asked you 3 questions that would decide the fate of your soul? In today's video, you'll hear the true and impactful story of a man who died, saw Jesus, and came back with a message everyone needs to hear. Before you begin, like, subscribe to the channel, and comment below which city you're watching from. My name is Mark Dempsey. I have 52 years old, and I live in Flagstaff, Arizona. I've been a truck driver for almost 30 years. I've always led a simple life. On the road, the radio on, strong coffee, and a lot of solitude between gas stations. I was raised in a Christian home, but the truth is, after my father died when I was 17, my faith went up in smoke in the rearview mirror. I claimed to believe in God, but the truth is, I lived as if he were just another sign I passed on the road, there, but ignored. On the day June 27th, I was driving by Interstate 40 returning from New Mexico. It was late afternoon, the sky overcast, and I felt a strange pressure in my chest. It wasn't just physical, it was as if the air had become dense, heavy. I took the next exit, parked the truck at an empty gas station, and got out to breathe. That's when everything went dark. Not like fainting. It was as if the world had shut down. Suddenly, absolute silence. No sound, no headlights, no wind. Just a dark and alive void. There was no fear. There was something sacred there, as if I were being watched by something infinitely greater than myself. It was then that I realized I was out of my body. I saw my body lying on the ground next to the booth. A gas station attendant was running, calling for help. I saw the desperation, the people trying to resuscitate me, but everything seemed distant, as if I were watching a play that no longer belonged to me. But the silence did not last. From the midst of that darkness, a light emerged. It was no ordinary light. It was a living presence, a light that didn't blind, but revealed. Everything inside me was invaded by a heat indescribable, a heat that didn't burn, but he cared. And then he appeared. I didn't need to ask who it was. There was no introduction. It was Jesus, but it wasn't the Jesus of the paintings or the crosses in churches. It was a presence made of truth, love, and power at the same time. His eyes did not look at me. They crossed everything I was. I saw myself before him as I really am, without masks, without excuses, without justifications. And before I could say anything, he called me by name, not with a voice, but with a thought as clear as thunder in the desert. Mark. That name, said by him, took me apart. It was as if my entire life was contained in that sound. I felt no judgment, but I felt something enormous was about to happen. He came closer, and then he said, "On the day of judgment, everyone will ask me questions. But today, I have 3 questions for you." I froze. My legs were gone. My chest burned as if my heart had been exposed. He wasn't there to punish me. He was there to reveal something to me, something that would change everything. And that's when the real journey began. The space around us transformed. I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't sky. It wasn't earth. It wasn't place. It was a dimension of truth, where everything you pretend to be dissolves in the presence of what is eternal. Jesus stared at me. His gaze wasn't hard. It was intense, more intense than anything I've ever felt. He didn't speak with his mouth. It was a thought directly within me, but it turned me inside out. Did you know how to receive love? I was in shock. My mind was expecting questions about sin, about going to church, about how many times I'd lied or fought. But this question hit me hard. At that moment, everything around me spun, as if I had been sucked into myself, and I began to relive moments of my life that I had completely forgotten. I saw my mother when I was 8 years old, kneeling beside my bed, placing her hand on my head and praying for me as I pretended to sleep. I saw myself there, trying to hide my tears under my pillow. She said, "Lord, help Mark never feel alone in this world." And I never told her I heard. I never said thank you. I never accepted that love. The scene changed. It was my wedding. Oh my God. I saw the day my wife and Jen tried to hug me after a fight. I'd said horrible things to her. She came to me in the hallway with tears in her eyes and said, "I just want us to be okay." And me, I turned my face away. I said I needed space. In truth, I just didn't know how to deal with someone loving me when I felt like crap. More scenes came. Several. My 9-year-old daughter, handing me a hand-drawn Father's Day card with a crooked heart and the phrase, "You're my hero," and I responded with a distracted, cool, "Thanks," without even putting down my phone. I saw everything. I felt everything. It was as if love itself showed me every moment it reached out to me, and I, whether afraid or proud, simply I rejected. The light around Jesus seemed to pulse with compassion. He was not angry. He was sad. Not for him, for me. "Love is not something you earn," he said inside me. "It is something you receive, and by rejecting it, you have rejected it to me." That tore me apart inside. I always thought being strong was not needing anyone, to endure in silence, to be the provider, the man, the tough guy. But there, before him, I saw that my strength was, in fact, a disguised fear. Fear of appearing weak, fear of being rejected, fear of being loved and failing. Jesus continued, "Receiving love is an act of humility. It's saying, I am worthy, even though I'm broken, because I made you worthy." I collapsed. I didn't cry. He poured out my soul in tears. It was as if all the ice that had accumulated over decades melted in seconds. I wanted to go back in time, hug my mom, apologize to Jen, listen carefully to my daughter, but I couldn't. I only had one thing left at that moment, to recognize, and in that sacred place, without body, without time, without defenses, I admitted the truth. No, Lord, I never knew how to receive love, but now, I want it. And his love finally came in. After that dive into my own soul, I imagined that nothing could hurt more. But then Jesus looked at me again, not with condemnation, but with a seriousness that made my spirit tremble. "Mark, what did you do with your pain?" In that instant, I was swallowed by a different darkness. It wasn't the emptiness of before. It was a condensed pain, as if all the anguish I carried throughout my life was alive, around me, inside me. And again, the scenes began. The first was at my father's funeral. I was 17, and I remember exactly the navy blue shirt I wore. Everyone was crying, and I froze. I didn't shed a tear. They said I was strong, a man, but the truth, I was breaking inside. The pain of that loss was the root of everything. My heart closed. I became cynical, hard, even cruel in silence. The boy who wanted to talk to God became the man who stopped praying. I saw other scenes, fights with my wife that started over trivialities, but stemmed from my fear of being abandoned, old pains I never talked about, which turned into resentment, and then poison. I saw the time my best friend told me he was depressed, and I told him to shake it off and move on, when really he just wanted someone to feel together with him. I never saw him again. He took his own life 2 months later, and then Jesus showed me something that destroyed me. All the times I was insensitive to others because I didn't know how to deal with my own pain. "The pain you hid, Mark," he said, "could have been a medicine. It could have been a bridge, but you kept it as a weapon, and it wounded in silence." His words didn't come as an accusation. They came as diagnosis, like a doctor who finally shows the X-ray of a sick soul. I found myself crying, really sobbing, but for the first time, too wasn't ashamed to feel. Jesus continued, "I never promised you wouldn't have pain. I promised that it would have purpose. Your pain was a gift, Mark. It was meant to be used to heal, to comfort, but you buried her. And along with it, you buried a part of me." At that moment, I found myself again with my hand on that friend's shoulder. Only this time, I was looking into his eyes and saying, "I've been there, and I'm with you now." But that never happened. It was just what it could have been. And then, like a warm wave, understanding hit me. Pain is a sacred gift when placed in the right hands. I always thought surviving pain was the goal. But Jesus was showing me that pain is a seed, and if you bury it without care, it rots. But if you water it with empathy, it blossoms into compassion. With my soul torn and bowed before him, I whispered, "Forgive me. I didn't understand." And he responded, with the tone of someone who never gave up, "Now you understand." And that changes everything. If the first 2 questions broke me, the third, me completely emptied. Jesus came closer. His gaze was a mirror of everything I had lost, but also of everything that could still be. And then came the last question, like a whisper laden with eternity. "Did you show me to them?" The question reverberated like silent thunder in my soul, and before I could respond, I was thrown, not violently but urgently, into a sequence of ordinary moments in my life, moments so insignificant that I never imagined seeing in the judgment of my soul. I was at a gas station in Kansas. The attendant was an elderly gentleman, shivering from the cold. He smiled and tried to make conversation. I just nodded and got into the truck. Jesus showed me the thoughts of that man. He was fighting loneliness, and in that moment, I just wanted to be seen. Then I saw a waitress at some roadside restaurant. She was tired, with dark circles under her eyes. She asked me how my day was going. "I just want to eat and leave," I replied. And there, at that moment, she thought about giving up her own life that night. Jesus showed me His presence hidden in these people. And me, I passed by them as if they were landscape. I was in them, Mark, Jesus said, in those tired eyes, in that choked voice, in that held-back tear. The scene changed. I saw my 13-year-old daughter sitting at the kitchen table, trying to tell me she was being bullied. And me, I responded by looking at my phone. I said, "It was worse in my day." She lowered her eyes and never touched on the subject again. I saw my wife crying in the car after losing her job. She begged me to tell her everything was going to be okay, and I just said, "That's just how life is." But inside her, she cried out for hope. And then I understood. Jesus was in all of them, waiting to be seen through me. "It's not about preaching with words," He said. "It's about reflect my heart in small gestures. When you respond with patience, when with kindness, when with presence, that's where you show me." The question echoed again. Did you show me to them? And my soul fell silent. The truth is, I thought that showing Jesus was talking about Him, defending the Bible, saying I believed. But there, in that dimension where nothing can be disguised, I understood. Showing Jesus is pay attention when the world ignores. It's extending your hand even when there's no time. It's really listening. It's seeing what no one sees. I cried without sound. A sweet and holy pain enveloped me. "Lord, I spent my whole life waiting for a calling, but now I see. The call was in every little moment. And I was blind." He came closer, and for an instant, He smiled. It was a smile of pain, but also of hope. And in that smile, I knew, there is still time. When the 3 questions echoed for the last time, did you know how to receive love? What did you do with your pain? Did you show me to them? Something changed around me. That space, previously filled with vivid light and scenes from my soul, began tossilence again. But this time, the silence was not empty, era full of meaning. I, who was waiting for Judgment Day, as a kind of tribunal with angels, thrones and rolls of accusations, realized something that left me without air, even without a physical body. The trial was already underway, and it was between me and the truth. There was no prosecutor, there was no sentence. There was no list of sins like in the sermons I heard as a child, had an eternal mirror, and the reflection was my own story, filtered by His light. And Jesus didn't point the finger. He revealed. That's when I understood the biggest revelation of all. Jesus didn't judge me for broken rules. He showed me missed opportunities. I felt a different pain there. It wasn't guilt. I deeply regret having lived below purpose. I saw my potential, not as success, fame, or achievement, but as instrument of love in His hands. I could have loved more. I could have listened more. Could have the sky revealed in the look, in the gestures, in the pauses, and everything I had done. My achievements, my trophies, the years of work without a break, the pride of not owing anything to anyone, but were worthless. What weighed was how much I had let Him love through me. "Most people don't understand," Jesus said, sadness in His tone. "They think I will weigh sins, but I come to weigh how much of me they let pass through their hearts. That tore me apart. My whole life I've prepared myself for judgment based on behavior. But the sky, judged by transformation. I saw that heaven is not a place we deserve or earn. It's a place where the soul that loves recognizes itself. And in that moment, I felt the weight of what really matters. Not how many times I messed up, but how many times could I have been a reflection of Him, and I chose the ego. Judgment is a question, He said, and the answer is in living. Did you recognize me? Did you let me pass? Did you reflect me? I couldn't answer, but He already knew. And yet, His presence did not move away. On the contrary, she got even closer. I thought the high point of that experience had already passed, but I was wrong. After the 3 questions, After being completely dismantled by the truth, Jesus did something I will never forget. He approached, not with steps, because there the movement was more like the intention of the Spirit, but everything in me felt it. Every particle of my consciousness was enveloped by a closeness that can only be described as love incarnate. And then, he hugged me, not with arms, not with touch, but with everything. It was as it was. The whole sky had enveloped me, and for a moment, I knew what it meant to be completely accepted. All shame, all pain, all guilt, they melted. In his presence, I realized that there was no room for lies, but there was also no room for rejection. You are known, Mark, and even with everything, you are loved. That broke me more than any vision, any question, any judgment. In that bodiless, fleshless embrace, I experienced what no human being is capable of fully describing, but I'll try. It was like this. Every tear I held back finally had a place to fall. Every weight I carried on my chest had finally found rest. Every time I felt alone, I wish I had been answered by this eternal hug. I felt like it was a son who returned home, and it didn't matter anymore how much I had messed up. It mattered that I understood now. And Jesus, he did not come with punishment. He came with a mission. You can't stay, Mark, he said. Not yet. There are people waiting to see my face through yours. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab eternity with everything I had. I meant that I didn't want to go back to this harsh, confusing world, full of voices and chaos. There is peace here, I thought. There is pain there. But he answered my thoughts with something I will never forget. That's where love needs to be revealed. And that's why you still breathe. My spirit trembled. The pain of leaving that place was like having to cut your soul in half. But I knew. The mission was not over yet. And then he said, teach them what you saw. Show them the questions. But more than that, long live the answers. And with this holy commissioning, the sky began to fade. The light around began to fade like smoke in the wind. The warmth of the embrace, the living sound of silence, the peace that filled even the cracks of my soul. All of this was being pulled away from me. It wasn't like waking up from a dream. It was like being kicked out of your home, even though you knew it wasn't time to live there yet. I felt a tug, physical, intense, as if eternity were pushing me back into time. And then came the sound, beep, 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 the most annoying sound in the world. But at that moment, he was sacred. My consciousness returned with such a violent impact that my entire body convulsed. The air rushed into my lungs like a blow. My throat burned. My eyes hurt. I was back. Screams. Agitation. He's coming back. It has a pulse. Give space. Give space. Cold lights. Masks. The smell of blood and hospital. I wanted to scream, but all I could do was cough. I coughed like I was vomiting up eternity. Minutes later, intubated, sedated, monitored. The world seemed so small, so gray. But inside me, there was something that no one could see. Because while the doctor said I had been dead for more than 15 minutes, that my brain must be compromised, that I was a medical miracle, the true miracle was what I had brought with me. The questions, did you know how to receive love? What did you do with your pain? Did you show me to them? They were burned into me like invisible fire. I tried to speak, but the doctors wouldn't let me. They said I needed to rest, but my soul could not be still, because I knew I had been sent back with a mission, and, even weak, even dizzy, even full of tubes, two knew who I was now. It wasn't just Mark, the lonely trucker from Arizona anymore. I was witness of heaven, messenger of truth, bearer of 3 questions that will pierce the veil of eternity with every living soul. And the craziest thing, it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. These questions will wait for you on the other side. At the hospital, I remember the nurse taking my hand. Are you okay, Mark? I looked into her eyes, tired eyes I'd seen before in that other dimension, and with what little voice I had, I whispered, you are seen. She froze. She cried without understanding why, but I knew. It was my first chance to answer the 3rd question. Did you show me to them? Yes, sir. I will go now. After I woke up, I spent 7 days in the hospital. Doctors were still trying to understand how someone who had been declared clinically dead for more than 15 minutes came back with no after effects, no memory loss, nothing that could explain it around me. But I knew I did not come back from death. I came back from eternity. And even though my body was there, lying down, attached to wires and devices, my soul was no longer the same. I couldn't explain what I felt. It was as if my skin remained on earth, but my spirit still carried the scent of heaven. But there was something else, something no one saw. The invisible marks, those 3 questions, they weren't just memories. They were like sacred tattoos burning into me day and night. I felt desperate to talk, to tell, to shout to the world what Jesus showed me. But I also understood that it wasn't just about talking, it was about live differently. In the hospital, every face I saw seemed to carry a new dimension. The tired nurse, the lonely janitor, the young resident full of insecurity. I saw them as Jesus saw me, with eyes that pierced appearance and saw essence. Right there, I began to live the answers. There was a moment I will never forget. A patient in the next room was screaming in pain, cursing the doctors, cursing everything. The staff avoided entering his room. They said he was aggressive, dangerous. But something in me said, "This is your chance, Mark. You know what to do with the pain now." At the first opportunity, I asked to be taken to him. When I walked in, he glared at me, as if I were just another busybody, but I didn't say anything. I just sat next to him. I remained silent. He huffed, muttered, complained. But after a few minutes, and he said, "Aren't you leaving too?" I shook my head. "No, I'm just here to be with you." He was silent, and out of nowhere he started crying. His pain found shelter in mine. I didn't even know his name, but I knew what Jesus wanted at that moment. Show me to them. And wings, no Bible, no speech, no religion, only with presence and listening. Jesus appeared. The invisible marks of eternity were not on my body. They were in the choices, and every choice I made from that day forward became a chance to answer those 3 questions, with action, not words. Because I understood, life is not measured by the time we spend here, but because of how much heaven we let slip through our gestures. After I left the hospital, the world seemed the same, but I was no longer the same man who left home on that June 27th. I walked the streets of Flagstaff as if every person was a hidden altar. The supermarket cashier, the woman crossing the street with her little son, the boy on the cell phone at the coffee table. In each one, I saw the live opportunity to answer questions that were made to me on the other side. And the more I paid attention, the more I realized something scary. Most people are walking around asleep, living as if judgment were something distant, almost mythical. But it's already started. It's happening every day, not in a courtroom with lights and trumpets, but in small decisions, in the gesture you make or don't make, in the word you offer or keep, in the love you receive or refuse. That's when it all became clear to me. Jesus' 3 questions are not just for the end of life. These are questions everyone is already answering. Now, in real time. You can live for years ignoring this, but one day, when your soul crosses the veil, you will remember. From that moment when he could have said, "I love you," but remained silent. From that pain that could have turned into empathy, but turned into bitterness. From that stranger who just needed a smile, and you looked away, and you will hear the voice. The same one I heard. Did you know how to receive love? What did you do with your pain? Did you show me to them? And on that day, the only thing that will matter, it's not whether you believed in God, and if God can be recognized in you. When I got back into my routine, I decided not to go back to the old version of myself. I stopped running. I started listening. I put aside the haste, the sarcasm, the cold skepticism I wore as armor, and I began to live in such a way that my life silently screamed, "I saw Jesus." And he asked me questions that changed everything. And here's the brutal truth. These questions are alive inside you too, even if you pretend you don't, even if you run away, even if you say, "It's not my business." One day it will be. And believe me, you don't want to be caught unprepared. Now that I'm here, trying to put into words what I experienced, I tell you with all the conviction of my soul, death is not the end. It's just the moment when all masks fall. What remains is the truth. And no, Jesus didn't ask me if I was evangelical, Catholic, baptized, or perfect. He didn't care how many verses I memorized or how many times I went to church. What he wanted to know, was if his love passed through me, if I received this love when it came disguised as a hug, if I turned my pain into compassion, not poison. If I recognized him in the eyes of the invisible people I met along the way, his 3 questions continue to echo inside me, like a sacred alarm that will never stop ringing. 1. Did you know how to receive love? 2. What did you do with your pain? 3. Did you show me to them? And maybe that's the real judgment, not a condemnation, but a revelation. Because in that place where time doesn't exist and the light is alive, you won't be able to lie. You won't be able to hide behind good intentions or excuses. You will see your life as it really was. And Jesus, with that look that knows everything, but loves anyway, will wait for your answer. So today, before your body falls to the ground like mine did, before your heart goes silent, before the paramedics try to bring you back, you need to understand. You are being asked now, in the way he treats his family, in the way he deals with his wounds, in choosing between apathy and empathy, in the simple, good morning that you can give or ignore. Every day is an answer, and one day, maybe sooner than you think, you will be called. And when that moment comes, and the light envelops you, and the name you've heard your whole life echoes straight through your spirit. What did you do with the love I gave you? What did you do with the pain I allowed? You showed me them. I know what it's like to be there, and that's why I need to tell you, prepare yourself, because eternity does not begin after death. She begins in the choices you make while you are still breathing. And the good news, there is still time. Today could be the day your soul wakes up. If you enjoyed this beautiful spiritual testimony, please leave a like, comment, share your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time.